Hello, and welcome to day 1. Just breathe. Starting out in child's pose, knees hip-width apart, big toes are touching. Shift your hips back to your heels, releasing your forehead down to the mat. Reaching your arms forward and allowing them to sink down. Let's set an intention. Allow yourself to let go of any self-judgment, to make room to better yourself. Three simple things to focus on in yoga. Your breath, allowing your breath to guide you through your practice. Foundation, to prevent injuries, and your alignment, to benefit from each pose. Now staying in child's pose, but just grabbing both of your blocks, placing them right ahead of you. You're going to place your elbows on top of the blocks and then release your head down to the mat. So adjusting them as needed, and then placing your palms on top of your shoulders. You could always open up your knees a little bit wider. And if you wanted to bring your palms together, right at the nape of your neck. Taking a couple deep breaths here. Opening up those shoulders. Also stretching those triceps. And then coming out of your pose, placing those blocks to the side and making your way onto all fours. Hands are underneath your shoulders. Your knees, you could start underneath your hips and slide them back into a modified plank, coming all the way down, belly to the mat. Inhaling as you come up into a low cobra or upward facing dog, and exhale, coming back to your child's pose. Inhale, coming back into your modified plank, and exhale, lower all the way down. Repeating this a few times, just warming up. Finding your breath. And always taking your time, going at your own pace. Going through one more round. Then making your way back into child's pose. Lifting those forearms off the mat, coming into your first downward facing dog. So coming right from here, heels are up, lifting your hips up and back. You could always keep your knees bent slightly, as much as you need to. You don't have to get those heels all the way down to the mat. Releasing your head down. Now stepping that right foot forward halfway, then all the way, and then the left to follow into your fold. Coming into a ragdoll pose, grabbing onto your elbows. If you wanted to sway back and forth a little bit. And releasing those arms, taking a deep inhale overhead, palms together. And exhale down to heart center. Taking a deep inhale as you raise your arms all the way up overhead, palms together. And exhale, swan dive all the way down. Inhale, half forward bend. And exhale, stepping back with that right leg into a high plank. And then the left. Keeping those hands underneath your shoulders. And extending those legs straight back. We're going to bring those knees down to the mat. And all the way down, elbows in. Belly to the mat. Inhale, either a low cobra or upward facing dog. Opening your heart forward and up. And then exhale, coming back to your child's pose. And then back into your downward facing dog. So being in the shape of an inverted V for your downward facing dog. Pedaling those feet a little bit more. We're going to step forward with that left foot halfway, then all the way, and then the right to follow in your fold. Taking a deep inhale as you raise your arms overhead, palms together. And exhale as you release down to mountain pose. Inhale, raising your arms overhead, palms together, and exhale, swan dive. Inhale, half forward bend, and exhale, stepping back with that left leg into a high plank, then the right. Releasing those knees down and sinking all the way down, elbows in, belly to the mat, coming up into low cobra or upward facing dog. Always going at your own pace, listening to your body, making it your own practice, and then shifting back into extended child's pose or right into your dog. Always be mindful of that lower back, stepping that right foot forward here. You can always help it out by grabbing onto the back of your calf muscle, and then the left to follow into your fold. Taking a deep inhale, raising your arms overhead, palms together, and exhale, hands are down by your sides. Inhale, raising those arms overhead, palms together, and exhale, swan dive. Inhale, half forward bend, and exhale, stepping back with that right leg into a high plank, and then the left. Now you could release your knees down, or you could sink all the way down, belly to the mat, elbows in. Inhale, low cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale, coming back either into extended child's pose or right into your dog. Stepping forward with that left leg halfway, then all the way, and then the right to follow into a fold. Inhale, raising your arms overhead, palms together, and exhale, release them down to your sides. Inhale, raising them overhead, palms together, and exhale, swan dive. Inhale, half forward bend, and exhale, stepping back with that left leg into a high plank, and then the right. Releasing your knees or sinking all the way down, elbows in. Inhale, low cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale, coming back to extended child's pose or right into your dog. And taking a breath here. Releasing those knees down to the mat. Making your way into child's pose here. Releasing your forehead down to the mat. Placing the small end of your mat against the wall and coming back into child's pose with your toes up against the wall. Make sure to keep one of your blocks handy. Using the wall and the block will help you to build a strong foundation and proper alignment in your poses. So making your way into downward facing dog, pressing those heels up against the wall as you lift your hips up and back, releasing your head. And then stepping forward with your right foot, halfway then all the way, into a warrior two. So aligning your front heel with your back arch and pressing that back foot up against the wall. Cartwheeling those arms all the way up. Pressing that left arm into the wall, keeping that front knee aligned right above your ankle. And then extending your right arm out straight ahead. Finding a focal point to stare at to maintain that balance. And making sure that that knee is in line with your second toe so it doesn't turn inward. Releasing the shoulders down away from your ears. It's a great way to learn your warrior two. Making your way into extended side angle, pressing your forearm into your thigh and placing your left hand to your hip. Making sure to create space as you press into your thigh and lift up, and then lifting that left arm up towards the ceiling. You could look down at your toes or look up at your fingertips, depending on how your balance is today. Reaching forward with that left arm overhead, depending on how that shoulder feels. And holding it here for a couple deep breaths. And then release, framing your right front foot with both hands, stepping forward with your left foot into forward fold. Releasing your head down, taking a deep inhale as you raise your arms overhead, palms together, and exhale, lowering them down to your sides. Inhale, raising those arms overhead, palms together, and exhale, swan dive. Inhale, forward bend, half forward bend, and exhale, opening up to the right, just grabbing onto your lower leg, coming into a little twist, tucking that belly button to the spine, and then release back down center, and then switching sides, opening up to your left. Release from your twist and stepping back with your right leg into a high plank, and then the left, shifting those heels back to the wall, extending those legs back, making sure your hands are right underneath your shoulders, spreading through those fingers, pressing into your palms and each finger. And then releasing all the way down to the mat, elbows in, coming up into low cobra or upward facing dog, and holding it here. And then shifting back into your child's pose, and then downward facing dog. Stepping forward with that left foot into your warrior two on the opposite side. So aligning your front heel with your back arch, and pressing the side of the back heel into the wall. Cartwheeling those arms up, pressing that right hand into the wall, and extending your left hand forward. Keeping that front knee aligned, releasing those shoulders away from your ears. So really grounding down into those feet as you lift up. Coming into your extended side angle pose. So pressing into your thigh with your forearm, right hand to hip, and then reaching up with that right arm up to the ceiling. If you wanted to reach forward, as long as your right shoulder feels okay here. And then release, framing your left front foot, and then stepping forward with your right foot into a fold. Taking a deep inhale as you reach your arms overhead, palms together, and exhale, releasing them down to your sides. Place your mat horizontally against the wall, making your way into wide-legged standing forward fold pose. Step your feet at about 3 to 5 feet apart, keeping those toes and knees facing forward. Heels are about a hand's or a foot's width away from the wall, and grabbing onto your blocks and stacking your blocks on top of one another. Shift your glutes into the wall, and keeping your hands, you could keep them tented if you wanted to here, placing the crown of your head on top of the blocks. If you wanted to, you could just place one block to the side and use the one if you have a little bit more flexibility. And you could always step your feet out a little bit wider. And you could shift those hands back a little bit, bending more into the elbows and pressing your hands flat into the mat. This stretches your hamstrings and your adductors or inner thighs. It lowers your blood pressure and also calms your mind. So slowly rolling out of your pose, we're going to wiggle those feet in towards each other. And then placing your hands on your thighs. Inhale as you roll all the way up, reaching those arms overhead, palms together. And exhale, release them down to your sides. We're going to come into a little twist, a low lunge twist against the wall. So keeping your right foot a foot's width away from the wall, Coming back into a low lunge with that left leg, keeping that front knee aligned, and taking a deep inhale as you reach those arms forward and up. Bringing those palms together and all the way down to heart center. So twisting to your right towards the wall, pressing that left elbow into that right thigh, and then just bringing your hands onto the wall and looking over your right shoulder. So tucking that belly button in, belly button to the spine, so you could go deeper into your twist. And coming back to your breath. And then coming out, coming into a child's pose here. Taking a couple deep breaths before we switch sides. And then rolling back up. We're going to switch sides. So placing your left foot a foot's width away from the wall, coming into your low lunge, keeping that front knee aligned. Taking a deep inhale as you raise your arms forward and up, palms together, and exhale, bringing them down to heart center and coming into your prayer twist. Pressing that right elbow against the outer edge of your left thigh, and then pressing your palms into the wall and looking over your left shoulder. Releasing those shoulders down away from your ears. And then coming out, stepping back into child's pose. Now rolling up, we're going to come into a seated twist using one of your blocks and the wall. So depending how far you are away from the wall, place that block underneath. You're going to sit on top of the block and cross those legs. So you want to be able to extend through that one arm. So extending through that right arm as you grab onto your right thigh with that left arm. Reaching up through the crown of your head, taking a couple deep breaths here. And then release, coming back to center. And then switching sides. So placing your right hand on your left thigh and reaching back with your left hand, pressing it into the wall. And looking over your left shoulder. Twisting is very healthy for that spine. And then release. Taking a couple deep breaths here. And then coming off your block, we're going to slide that mat back away from the wall and keeping both of your blocks handy. We're going to come into a reclined butterfly pose. So placing your blocks one on each side of your mat, coming into a seated position, grabbing onto the back of your thighs and rolling down. Bringing the palms of your feet together and releasing your knees out to the sides and supporting your knees with your blocks. You could release your arms out to the sides, palms up or across your belly, whichever suits you. And closing your eyes. Relaxing those facial muscles. Taking a couple deep breaths here. And then placing those blocks to the side and making your way into Shavasana. Extending those legs, allowing those feet to flop out to the sides. Allowing your head, shoulders, hips, and heels to sink down into the mat.